This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, we'll begin the meeting Wednesday, May 8th, 2024, Montachusett Joint Transportation Committee. I guess we're all here. We have a quorum. Are there any public comments? Anyone from the public wishing to make a comment? I hear none. Call for the approval of the minutes of April 10th, 2024 minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
I hear nothing on that, so on consensus, we'll approve it. Are there any nays on that chance there may be? I hear none. We'll go to item 4, Safe Streets for All, Safety Action Plan. Who has that?
Okay, I can give a brief introduction on this before I turn it over to Nathan and Bruce over at WSP. The Safe Streets for All grant, which we got awarded in the fall of 2022. We've been giving periodic updates to this group on the ongoings of that grant. A status now is we have our consultant on board, WSP, who's here today to present some information, an update on what's going on with the safety action plan. We've been working with Martin, our consultant, to create a Vision Zero Action Committee, which we've met twice with that group so far. And we have a public meeting later this month, which I believe that Nate and Bruce will detail in their presentation. Also of note, and I'm sure they'll mention it again, is we have our survey still available live on our website up until the end of business today. So if you haven't already, I encourage everybody to take the Safety Action Plan survey on our website. I know I've mentioned that at this meeting a few times in recent months. But with that being said, I'll turn it over to Nathan Cabral-Curtis and Bruce Kaplan from WSP to give us an update on our safety action plan. And Nate, I'll try to give you presentation.
Perfect.
Okay, you should be able to
That's
take it
looking
away.
good so far. All right,
Are we there?
we're close.
Put it on the big thing.
Yup. I'm just trying to maneuver the mouse on the TV, which
There
is
we
challenging.
go. Well,
Look at that.
look at that. All right, so I'm talking. I'm Bruce Kaplan. I'm the project manager on this for WSP. With me again, as Brian said, is Nathan Cabral-Curtis, who is leading our public involvement. And just again to kind of thanks again, Brian, for giving a brief recap of kind of the grant and what have you, but we're going to elaborate a little bit on this. So Nate, I guess onto the next sort of slide. So you're probably wondering, what is this? You know, this is the, again, Safe Streets for All. As mentioned, this is funded via the bill, the bipartisan infrastructure bill. It's a 3-part program. Trying to fund Vision Zero. We're at step 1, the safety action plan, coming up with a regional safety action plan. And there's a secondary phase where you do supplemental planning, where you kind of pick projects out from your safety action plan and apply for funding for those. And the last stage is actually implementing them. Again, DOT, besides safety, has some other sort of things that they want to focus on. Equity, as you know, as you can see there, and as you probably know, recognize that, disadvantaged communities and, pedestrians and other non-motorized users really are overrepresented in fatalities on the roadway, as well as kind of the climate change is affected by, lack of safe bike and pedestrian facilities. Another key thing to note here about this grant is that this is really at the municipal and regional level. It's not for state DOTs. So it's basically, it differs from a lot of other grants in that they're not looking at limited access highways and freeways for kind of facilities where, you know, you could make some changes or improvements. They're really looking for stuff at the municipal level. And that's kind of what the timeline in grant is geared towards. So, you know, as opposed to, you know, again, if you kind of thought, well, where are all the crashes happening? Aren't they happening? Well, there are a lot of crashes, but this grant is on the highways, but this grant is focused on municipal level. So that's what we're kind of studying and looking at here. Those are our kind of parameters. So if we go to the next slide, oh, wrong way.
Yep.
Okay, this is the first of us. I'll call them the cheese slides. One of our team members referred to this as kind of the, you know, the cheese wheel here. That there are these 5 sorts of elements that you know that Vision Zero and the Safe System approach does, and it's very different kind of than how things are traditionally have been done. Again, things have progressed forward, but it's very much a in terms of safety in the last 50 years, but we're not where we should be. Serious injuries and fatalities are still happening. And again, it's kind of the principles here, which I'll get into in a minute. When I look at when we go to, you can now go to the next cheese slide. This is kind of the Swiss cheese side, in that we're looking at creating stuff that is very much layers of protection here. We're looking at identifying and mitigating where crashes happen, or serious crashes where they're happening. We're looking at creating layers of protection again. We're looking at you know, non-design elements again. You know, as you know, we're dealing perhaps here in terms of like things like, you know, being able to use design to kind of do safe, you know, the way facilities and speed, and to create safe users. But there are other sorts of you know, elements to this as well. It's about being proactive, you know, again, to kind of look at where these sort of you know, crashes historically have happened, where people are getting injured, and how we can kind of anticipate and then mitigate those sorts of things. And if we go to the next slide, again, historically, you know, in terms of engineering and the way that safety has looked, there's stuff on the stuff is on the left column there, that you're trying to, you know, prevent all sorts of crashes, and make people, you know, improve human behavior as kind of it is, and to kind of react based on the history. And, you know, it's just on individuals, and it's just about speeding. Well, here, it's a different sort of approach. You're looking to reduce the number of crashes, or rather kind of the reduce the numbers of people who are getting killed and or experience serious injuries. You're allowing and accommodating for error in the system. You know, you're implementing designs that can kind of absorb, shall we say, things like, as much as we might not like it, property damage only. But we're really focusing in on, you know, keeping people alive here, and not having them, you know, having their lives turned upside down because of a serious injury. We're about lowering the consequences of crashes. If a crash happens, how do we make it safer, shall we say, and kind of move away from having that, Thank you for that thing I just saw. We will be getting to that in a moment. You know, we're looking at trying to, again, mitigate, you know, the loss of life. And you're trying to focus, again, the investments on kind of the gravest issues, you know, to intervene and, you know, prevent where, or, you know, reduce where, you know, people are, you know, potentially going to suffer from, to kind of, again, react as where have events happen, and then kind of proactively go ahead and
Hey, Bruce and Nate, it seems like your sound is cut off.
And look at
Does anyone else have trouble hearing?
Yeah, I'm not hearing him.
Okay.
Yeah, me neither, Brian.
So Bruce and Nate, if you can hear us, we can't hear you. So I'm not sure what looks like your microphone's on.
saying, can folks hear me again?
Yep.
Or not?
We can
Now
now.
we can.
Okay, thanks. All right, I'll keep going through. So basically, we're, the intent of this again, is kind of you imagined and guessed from, previously, we're going to be looking at a lot of data, trying to figure out where are these crashes, that have historically resulted in fatalities and serious injuries occurred in the region on these facilities. We're going to be looking at, considerations for equity. We're going to be, using our vast experience of stuff, around the country and around the world, and kind of applying it to the Montachusett area context, looking at sustainability, and we're going to, again, develop a program that will kind of of investments that will reduce the fatalities and serious injuries and lower the crashes and try to receive equity. And we're going to help MRPC move forward with this in the next 2 phases in the upcoming grant cycles, as it were. So on the next slide, we can get there.
I think it's just in misery. There we go.
There we go. What we're looking again is here kind of a big overview of what's going to come out of this. We're going to come up with a series of shared values and goals, implementation strategies, projects. We're going to help MRPC prioritize these. We're going to set up an implementation for schedule and for monitoring, and as you see on the right, to kind of set this sort of monitoring goal of we're going to eliminate crashes by this year, or we're going to reduce it by this percentage by such and such a year. Those are typical sorts of things that we've seen in these other Vision Zero plans across the country. So that's ultimately what we're shooting for here. You're probably wondering, well, what have we been up to since we started? Well, that first element there, the shared goals and values, we have a Vision Zero Action Committee, which is more or less a steering committee composed of a whole bunch of folks. And we've met twice already, as Brian had said, and we've come up with consensus on these are the shared values and goals, as you can see there. And as you can see, the mode, based on feedback from you all and other members, the walking, including with pets and on horseback, is now a consideration. We are going to be examining that. That is something that we're going to be looking at and being attuned to, in addition to, kind of, okay, we're looking at pedestrians, we're looking at cyclists and micromobility and transit users. This is a special thing that, we were told to look at, that you let us know, and we're going to do that. Again, we're also been, anecdotally told to look at, commercial mobility sort of concerns, as you can see there. But those are kind of the things that the committee has agreed on in consents, that these are going to be the fundamental goals driving our analysis. So on to the next. So this is also what we've been up to. We have begun mapping over the last 5 years where the fatal injuries have occurred and where the serious injuries have occurred in the region. And as you can see, they're kind of clustered, I guess, where you might imagine, right? Where there's a lot of traffic on local roads and where the populations are. But it's interesting to see that, with the exception of one municipality, every single other municipality has either has a fatal injury or a serious injury that has occurred in the last 5 years. So no one's immune to this. This is not just, a couple of communities with, whether they're urban or rural. I mean, as you can look on this map, you're seeing fatalities happening in the urban communities, in the more rural communities. So this is widespread, and this is not, I won't say, it's not a easy thing to kind of look at and say, aha, here's where it is, and here's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to come up with very different strategies to deal with this, to take into into account people with again, different contexts, different environments. How do we reduce that? The fatalities out in Phillipston is really going to be different than designing to kind of reduce fatalities in Fitchburg or Leominster. And as you can see there's which something we're again, this is just kind of our initial look at it, right? We're still refining the data and how we kind of slice and dice it, and looking at vulnerable road users and other sorts of categories, and how we look at this and how we end up, and ultimately we're going to have a weighting system where to really kind of focus on what are the key intersections and what are the key corridors that we need to pay the most attention to. So this is kind of the first initial cut, but it is interesting to see that as kind of not just that they're clustered in areas where there's a lot of traffic, but there's also some clustering around on the local roads near the limited access highways, and there seems to be some clusters also, if looking at it near some, I would call it seemingly rural downtowns or kind of on the edge. If you look at those, and it's like, well, okay, those are areas to look at. And we're going to have to, take a real deep dive into figuring out what's causing these and how we're gonna really figure out how to mitigate those, and as well as kind of take the lessons from this and saying, okay, if this is what the condition is like in Athol, how can we apply that to similar roads, perhaps in Phillipston or Royalston or Hubbardston? That's kind of what we're trying to think, to turn it from this reactive sort of tool, like, okay, we know where things are, but like, let's figure out where the risks will happen in the future, because they will happen, and we want to keep people alive. That's the thing. Time's of the essence here. So I think I'm going to pass it on to Nate now, because I think the next slide is the outreach stuff, yeah, which Nate has been key on. I believe that's the next slide.
Yep, looks like it. So thank you very much, Bruce. So as Brian noted, the survey has been chugging along with our project website and email address since March. So it's had a good long time to cook. It closes today. We have had 226 replies as of yesterday, so that's looking good. We've had a lot of in-person outreach just to try and get people to understand that this is out there, and you can see that kind of paying off in the sheer number of folks who have interacted with the survey. So there's over 50 locations where we've placed flyers. We've had 12 places where we've had staff tables, so one or more public involvement staff kind of waving flyers at people saying, hey, did you know this is happening? Did you know there's a survey? Don't you want to participate in this? We have one, it says 4 or 5. We've probably pushed through some of those at this point. We've probably got about one more location to do for flyers and a staff table, which is we think the Market Basket in Leominster. And as you can see here in the lower right, there is, again, another map. And those numbers are what you see. They're sort of commenting hotspots. And what we like to see in these maps is a nice lineup between, and just at a quick glance of this, you are seeing those comment clusters. Look at the ones in Fitchburg, look at how many in Leominster, and yet, as Bruce said, nobody's immune. They're up in Townsend. They're further afield than just in the cities. And so, what we're looking for is to see the comment clusters in the surveys of, this is a dangerous intersection. I hate driving on this stretch of road. I had a terrible accident here in, 2019. We're looking for those to line up with what we see on the technical side, just by way of showing the public, hey, look, we might be looking at this problem with slightly different microscopes, but it's the same issue underneath. So we have a good basis for going forward together here to form some solutions. So we do have our initial public information meeting coming up. I would definitely request that everybody and anybody assist us in promoting this. This will be Thursday, May 30th at 6:30. We're at Fitchburg State in the Ellis White Room at 160 Pearl Street. This will be a hybrid meeting. Zoom is available. We have already begun advertisements. So we have the Zoom link is available in all the advertisements, which are going in both English and Spanish. We have a pretty good list of news outlets that we think are going to do it for us, both from our own research and from our friends at MRPC. Obviously, if there's a newspaper that you always use, please give that to Brian. Please give it to George, and they'll pass it along. Obviously, we need to strike a balance between getting in the right papers and spending all of MRPC's money on newspaper advertisements. But again, we do think we have a pretty good mechanism for notifying folks. In addition to newspapers, Fitchburg State is helping promote this. We are going to try to get onto every municipal town calendar in the study area. We will be trying to get onto every public access cable television channel in the study area. Public access cable is actually really good because they can just add it to the crawl and it just sits there, all month long scrolling by. That's very helpful. So really that's kind of the next step for us in outreach. We look forward to decanting the survey starting, later this week and figuring out what's in there and how we can best use it. And I believe that is our full presentation. We knew we didn't have forever and we wanted to leave some time for Q&A. So I can yield back control on the screen, or we can just leave me in the spot for the moment, just so that if somebody wants to see one of the other slides, I can quickly bring it back up.
Thank you very much for that presentation. I did know Petersham was the only community in the region that didn't have an accident. I guess nobody lives in Petersham, or nobody ever wants to go there.
Well, that's not entirely true. What it is that's not, it doesn't, we categorize sort of, we categorized accidents, we use DPS records and that sort of, those sort of things on how it's classified. And those stuff that you saw mapped were only the killed and serious injuries. I mean, there's also, not so serious injuries, and, there's different gradations all the way down to, there's a crash and property damage only. So those were excluded. It was just the either fatalities or serious injury. That doesn't mean that, Petersham gets off, I don't want to call it scot-free, and is just a very lucky community and doesn't have any crashes. It's important to understand that again, that the thrust of the study is that we're going after and trying to prevent and reduce those, really life-changing, debilitating injuries and fatalities, and to, work on reducing it and reducing them and making the roads safer. Again, it's not going to, again, we're not going to eliminate all crashes. We're just looking to reduce the I want to call it the most critical of them. And I realize that, you know, for an individual, every crash is critical, right? So,
Absolutely.
but the way we're kind of structuring it with our methodology, that's what we're looking at. So I hope that clarifies things a little bit.
Yeah, they could still be trading paint in Petersham. It's just that, you know, for this time period studied, they didn't find anything where that we would, you know, call it a life-altering to life-ending incident.
I seem to recall during COVID, the highways and the roads were rather empty, so everybody speeded up. So now that everyone or almost everyone's back at work, the roads are getting full again or are full, but the speed has not gone down. So like along Route 2, I hear of accidents in my area, in Westminster, Gardner, Templeton. There's almost an accident every other day along those sections in my area. So thank you for that presentation. I thought it was very informative.
Sure.
Next item, item 5, the Montachusett fiscal year.
Can we head out, Brian? You guys, you're good to go, right?
Yeah, thank you very much again.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very, very much.
Pleasure to do it. We'll see you.
We'll see you. Be in touch.
Item
Okay,
5,
I think we're ready now.
Montachusett fiscal year 2024-2028 transportation improvement program. Brian?
Yep, and I'll take this. So at the April MPO meeting, there was a proposed amendment to the current TIP, which is federal fiscal year 24 through 28. So this proposed amendment was reviewed and released for public comment period by the MPO. That comment period started April 19th and it runs through this coming Friday, May 10th. So the reason for the amendment, and we're calling this amendment number 5, the reason for the amendment is a cost increase necessary to project 608, 723 in Athol, which is intersection improvements at Crescent Street and Chestnut Hill Ave. And the reason for the cost increase is the addition of offsite hazmat disposal items. So it's currently listed at $8,434,367. The proposed new cost would be $9,599,783, increase of approximately 1.165 million or 14%. So like I mentioned, this is out for public comment period currently up until Friday. What we're looking for from the JTC is a recommendation, consensus recommendation to the MPO to endorse this amendment at their meeting next week.
Is that it on that one, Brian?
Yep, that's it. So we're looking for a consensus recommendation from the JTC to the MPO to endorse. If you feel comfortable doing that, and as I mentioned, we're still within the comment period. This is available. This information is available on our website. You can make a comment up until Friday, close of business.
I make a recommendation to be approved or submitted to the MPO for approval as presented.
I'll second that.
I'll second that.
Okay, great. And consensus, we don't need to take a formal vote or anything. So when I make my report to the MPO next month, I'll mention support by the GTC. So thank you.
Okay. Item 6, the Montachusett fiscal year 2025-2029 TIP program.
So this, as we've heard updates over the last number of months, the 25 through 29 TIP, we presented the drafts group of projects to the JTC last month. We did the same thing to the MPO. The MPO released the draft 25 through 29 tip for a 21-day public comment period. It's the same comment period as the amendment we just discussed. It started April 19th and it ends on Friday, this coming Friday, May 10th. So we're within the comment period right now, and I thought we could review the comments we received to date with the JTC and ultimately get another consensus recommendation from this group to the MPO to endorse at next week's meeting. So I'll just quickly go over the comments to date we've received. So they came from 3 different sources, and this is summarized here. The comments are more in detail, but for the sake of presentation, I summarized them. We received comments from Mass DOT, Office of Transportation Planning. We received a comment letter from the town of Air and another letter from the town of Harvard. So I'll start with the MassDOT comments. The Office of Transportation Planning is always great with offering us guidance going into these federal documents. There's a number of requirements that we need to add in here, and they're a big help on keeping us on task and focused on exactly what needs to happen. So really appreciate the guidance and the comments as well. So this year, the comments are relatively simple from Office of Transportation Planning. I won't read these word for word, but basically what you see is the comments and our response. I'll just give a quick summary. The first one here, basically they suggest adding some links to the document in different areas for reference purposes, which we plan to do. The next comment, they ask us to update some language related to federal legislation, so we'll add that. The next, they mention on page 46 and 51 some clarity related to some tables that we have. So we're looking at to make some edits in the final document to increase clarity on those. The next comment from OTP is just to make sure the MPO member list is consistent between the UPWP and what we have on our website, which we'll do. They also asked to provide a brief description of the MPO organization, which we'll add in for the final document. Also, they request that we make additional references to funding sources. So we'll add some additional references and some details within about the funding programs. They ask us to update highway and transit project lists. There have been some changes. The cost just locked in last week. So even though we released the draft last month, some of the projects have changed a bit. As it relates to our region, it's not going to affect placement anyway, but we will update the list for the final version. And finally, from Mass DOT, they ask us to include MBTA projects list into the appendix, which we'll do. So that's it from Mass DOT, Office of Transportation Planning. We also received a letter from the town of Air, and I included that letter in the handouts. The letter itself will be included in the appendix of the tip. Basically, the letter was in support of project 609227, which is the project down on Main Street, 2A and 111, road rehab. It's currently scheduled for 2029, and their letter basically states their support and their commitment to the project and their commitment to keeping on the design process and even being ahead of schedule compared to where it is currently placed in 2029. So we certainly, our comment is, our response is support noted, but we certainly appreciate their commitment to the project and keeping it on schedule. It's very important for all these projects, and they've stated that, I believe, in the last tip as well. So it's nice to have full buy-in from the community on that. From the town of Harvard, similar, we received a letter regarding project 609213. This is the project on Air Road reconstruction. This is one of the projects that's been a topic of discussion throughout the process. So originally listed in 2026, we opted to move this 1 year forward into 2025 because of concerns with project readiness elsewhere. This was never really a home run to be ready in 2025, but this was the best option. This is what's included in the draft, and we hope that it's ready in 2025, but there's concerns that it may not be. The town has really put a lot of resources into this project in time to keep it on schedule for 2026. And you know, I think I mentioned specifically last month when we went through the list, staff's proposal, if we were to move this project, if it wasn't ready for 2025, would be to move it back no further than 1 year. And this is what the town of Harvard's letter states as well. So we want to acknowledge that letter and include that into the tip as well. And the letter will be included in the appendix. So as I mentioned, we're still within the official comment period for this tip. I know it's been a long way. You've heard a lot of updates from me over the last few months, so thank you for that. So right now we're looking for a consensus recommendation to the MPO to endorse the 25 to 29 tip at their meeting next week.
I hear a motion for an endorsement of this plan. And a second.
I make a recommendation for the MPO to endorse the tip as presented with the comment.
Thank you, George.
Second.
I hear a second.
Second.
Is there? Go ahead. TC, I think you made that second.
Yep. Sorry, I'm having an issue with my camera.
Yep, that came from Travis.
Okay,
So
Travis
thank you on that. And I'll consider that the consensus of the group. Again, it's still up for public comment. You can access it on our website. If you have trouble accessing the draft document, reach out to me and I'll try to get it to you. And feel free to write comment up to close of business on Friday.
Very good.
That's all I have for this item.
Okay. Item number 7, Montachusett fiscal year 2025 Unified Planning Work Program. I'm going to review the comments received to date, and I'll be asking for a recommendation to the MPO for endorsement.
Yep. So similar to the tip we just discussed, the MPO released the UPWP out for public comment the same period, April 19th through this coming Friday, May 10th. So it's out for comment right now. To date, we received comments from Mass DOT Office of Transportation Planning. You can see it's a little bit different format than what we set up the tip comments here on the screen here, but they provided a number of comments and we condensed it and basically we divided it into 2 separate comments based on categories. So the first one here deals kind of with completeness. They're asking us to add additional references to be included related to the federal legislation, much like the tip comment. They also ask to update member lists online and be consistent with what we have in the UPWP and on our website and on the tip. So we plan on doing that, and those changes were made or will be made. Comment number 2 deals with narrative. They suggest consider building on references to the RTP, the Regional Transportation Plan, and explaining how a particular task will work towards goals and objectives from that report. We certainly think that's important. I'm sure this group remembers talking about goals and objectives to the RTP last year. It's important to tie those to the tasks if we can. So we plan on adding those additional references to the RTP where appropriate. So these are the 2 comments I received. Again, you can access the document on our website and comment up until Friday afternoon. And we're looking for consensus recommendations to the MPO to endorse.
Well, again,
Thank you, Brian.
go ahead.
George,
I make a recommendation to the MPO to endorse the UPWP fiscal year 25 as presented with the comment.
is there
I'll
a
second
second
that.
out there?
Yeah, I got
Okay,
a second. Best Faxon.
okay, thank you.
You go.
Consensus is we approve.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Next thing, item 8, MJTC Nominating Committee. This is an annual requirement according to our charter. So I'm looking for a convener to select maybe 3 other members to work together and meet prior to the next meeting and come up with a list of nominees for chair, vice chair, and a secretary. Is there anyone that wants to volunteer to be a convener for the nominating committee? Come on.
And I'll mention, as Bob mentioned, this is an annual obligation of this group. We need to select officers to serve. The 3 officers are chair, vice chair, and secretary. It's very minimal requirements involved for the officers. Basically, it's just running the meeting. The chair runs through the meeting. In the case that the chair is not able to make it, it's the vice chair. And if the chair and the vice chair can't make it, it's the secretary. And of course, staff is always willing to step in, as we have in the past, and run the meeting as well. That's not a problem. There's no minute taking or any sort of administrative requirements or anything like that. Basically, the process is, as Bob mentioned, is we'll ask for volunteers to serve on this nominating committee. We'll meet briefly before the June meeting. I'll set something up, shouldn't take more than 15 minutes. That committee will make their report to the group at the June meeting on a slate of officers. If anyone's interested in serving as an officer, chair, vice chair, secretary, we can take floor nominations at that meeting. And then the first meeting of the of the next program year, in this case, July 1st through June 30th is our program year, we'll vote to elect the slate of officers. So if there is any,
I volunteer, 1 volunteer.
Travis Condon, I'll
okay,
also volunteer.
Travis, okay.
Beth Faxon, I'll volunteer.
Great. And I'll make sure
put my
I
name
set
down.
up. What's that, Bob?
I'll do it. Sign me up too.
Okay, great. Okay, so looks like we have 4 for the nominating committee. So I'll follow up with all you, on exactly what we're doing here. And as I mentioned, we'll meet briefly before the June meeting. We'll just open this meeting early. We'll discuss a slate of officers in the process a little bit, and we'll come back in June and present that to the group, and hopefully have a slate of people willing to serve for as officers for this group for the next year going forward. So I appreciate everyone's involvement. One other item on top of this, as an FYI, they did send out appointment letters to planning boards, select boards, and mayors on Monday. This is another annual housekeeping thing. Basically, each community has 2 appointees to the JTC. The planning board appoints 1 person. The select board appoints 1 person. In the case if it's a city, the mayor appoints somebody. And it's important to note that the appointee doesn't have to be on the planning board or select board, but those bodies designate somebody to serve on the JTC. So just an FYI, this was sent out to all planning boards, select boards, and mayor. So this should be hopefully filled out and sent back to us, to me, before the end of June, if possible. That does it for that item.
Hey, Brian, it's Chris. I think there might have been a typo on the date on the previous page. I think it was
Yes,
July 1.
I just mentioned that too. I
Oh,
just,
I'm sorry.
yeah, and I think this is the version I sent out as well. So
All right. No,
Yes,
apologies.
yeah, yeah. So just for clarification, uh, this is for the upcoming year, July 1st, 24 through June 30th, 25. Hopefully that's apparent enough to people and we get feedback. I can follow up on that as well. Thanks, Chris.
okay, next item, item 9, future MJTC meetings, possible future topics. Brian, you want to elaborate on that?
Sure. Yep. So I put this item on the agenda to get some feedback from the group about what would be helpful topics to discuss. And technically, we're a planning advisory group. We have been reviewing the business of the NPO and providing feedback and another set of eyes and ears. And even if we don't think we're affecting the decision making just by virtue of going through the process and understanding it, we're serving our purpose. So, and I appreciate everyone's time on the JTC. I think recently we've been bogged down with some of the federally required documents. There's always tip amendments and the new tip and the updated UPWP. And last year it was the regional transportation plan was a big topic, and we went over that. And it gets repetitive, especially with the tip stuff. I know that. But in the past, especially before COVID, before we went remote, we would have items such as we had today on the Safe Streets for All, just different items on projects that we're working on, whether that be staff projects on site-specific areas or we've presented on Chapter 90 funding. I know in the past it's been mentioned it would be useful to have someone from DOT come in and talk about getting a tip project funded and on the list. I think that would be a useful subject. Basically, my intention is not to prolong or draw out the meetings in any way, and they are pretty short meetings as of late. We've been all business lately, but to sort of enrich the discussion between the JTC. I remember in the past we've had discussions on Chapter 90, and we actually drafted a letter to the legislature about increasing Chapter 90 apportionments. Clearly, the letter from the Montachusett JTC didn't work because it's been the same for like 15 plus years, but we've done stuff like that in the past. It might be an opportunity to get somebody in from a funding program to talk about it a little bit. I think that the tip would be a popular subject. I don't know if communities have any specific needs or interest. We could act as a sounding board and have a brief conversation regionally about what other communities are doing. So we're soliciting feedback. So if anyone has any feedback today, I'd gladly take it. I do plan on creating some sort of a survey and sending it out, just a brief type of thing, and an ongoing solicitation of possible topics. Could be anything. So I'd like to, I think we're a group. There's some professionals that work full-time for communities with this group. There's some volunteers. So I appreciate everyone coming and attending. And this is an effort to enrich the conversation and make the group a little bit more hands-on. Is there any specific thoughts on that?
I think that sounds interesting to me anyway. I don't know about the rest of the members.
Hey, Brian. I think the tip stuff would certainly be helpful. And any other sort of mass dot driven projects or processes, I'm happy to help coordinate and get some folks from our office to participate. Perhaps have a presentation with a Q&A afterwards. But looking at like the UPWP as well, I know a lot of work products tend to kind of be finalized and delivered in September. But if there's any opportunity for this group here look at, what's been done so far. Like if you're at a good point developing final drafts or moving on to like strategies and recommendations, looking at, some of the tasks in the current UPD right now and like the climate change program, the housing coordination planning, for example, also the North County Land Trust trail mapping effort. If you ever are at a spot where you might want some feedback about the direction or perhaps like a final product deliverable, perhaps this group could provide some insight on what's engaging, what additional information might be helpful to get members of the public inspired about some of this work. Just throwing some ideas out there, I guess, to help the conversation.
Yeah, Chris, thanks. Those are excellent ideas. And in the past, we've, periodically updated members on some of the projects we're working on. I've presented on pavement management in the past, our program, and other things as well. So we'll certainly be looking to choose a few of these studies to highlight, especially if they're regional studies and they kind of involve everyone. I see in the chat state funding programs such as Complete Streets. Absolutely. Maybe we can get somebody from the state to give a overview and just, even if it's just a refresher, what's eligible, how to start the process. And our communities are all pretty good on Complete Streets. A lot of them have plans in place and they've attained funding, but sometimes there's questions on what's eligible, that type of thing. And I see Chelsea, you mentioned the website says 6:30 for meetings. I apologize for that. I'll have to fix that. So thanks for pointing that out. But, expect to see survey sometime in the near future. And you may not have anything to add, but if you do, that's great. But we'll try to sprinkle in some of these conversations within our group in the future as well. It's been, it gets boring talking about the tip all the time and everything like that, and we're serving a purpose, but it would be nice to have more of a conversation on what's going on in the field. And Chelsea mentioned the future of mobility meetings, which are great. We've been involved with. Certainly, I know we've given updates on meeting dates under announcements with this group. We'll continue to do so when we get those. But that would be useful to have some feedback from that group and some cross-pollination, that type of thing. That's really all I had on this item.
Okay. Item 10, contract status reports. Federal Transit Administration.
So I have nothing for FTA this month.
Okay, Regional Transit Authority, George, do you have anything?
Yes, I have just one item repeating what I said last month or before that too, is as part of the Fair Share program, MART implemented several new services to its bus route system in the MART region. Since early this year, we implemented a new bus route in Gardner, called Gardner Route 3, which runs north-south in 30-minute loop, connecting the shopping centers and Haywood Hospital and downtown, and been going very, very well. People really, they are using it. And also, we added more frequent service on the intercity route between Fitchburg, Leominster, and Gardner during the weekdays, and added Saturdays to the intercity route to the Winchendon link. And since really 3 months running the Winchendon link on Saturday, the use was really very, very low. And we had to stop that Saturday service on Winchendon link. And also we added the Sunday service to Gardner City and to Atoll Orange bus route. That one is doing very well. And lately, just a couple of weeks ago, on April 14th, we added Sunday service to Fitchburg and Leominster on several bus routes, like in Fitchburg, Route 1, Route 2, 5 and 7, 9 and 8 in Leominster, and they are doing very well. All that part of this grant we have, the Fair Share Pilot Program. And MART is running a fare free service on all its fixed bus routes system up to June 30 of this year. Please take this information and give it to your towns and let that people know we have it free to ride it. This is what I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, George.
You're welcome.
The next sub item is the Mass DOT.
This is our 3C joint contract. So just an update on this, continuing our work program. Typically, we enter the summer months. We're doing a lot of data collection. We just hired a vendor for our traffic count program. We have about 60 counts this year. A number of those are requested by Mass DOT, and a number of them are related to projects that we're working on in-house. So we'll be undertaking that. Pavement management, big in the summer. A lot of the data collection for the tasks and reports within the UPWP. So we're really getting going on that. Also, the MPO meets next Wednesday. As you're aware, we'll be voting to endorse the amendment number 5 to the current tip, and the new updated tip, and the updated UPWP. So that is in the future. And I just want to point out something that Chelsea provided in the chat. Symposium for Public Health and other municipal folks. There's a Eventbrite invitation. Encourage everyone to check that out. So that's the update I have for 3C.
Very good. Any other administrative items? Item 11.
Just the next meeting, June 12th. And for those on the nominating committee, thank you again. I'll send out some information. Probably what we'll do is we'll meet 15 minutes before, come up with a slate of officers again, and we'll make that report to the group and move forward. And hopefully we'll have 3 willing officials to serve as chair, vice chair, and for secretary. And of course, staff is here to support everyone in those roles. So appreciate everyone volunteering, and I'll get some additional information out to the nominating committee. So thank you.
I'd just like to make a comment that as long as I've been on the MJTC and in the TIP program, there was an item there for Gardner about putting a roundabout in on the north side of Gardner. Lo and behold, it's taking effect. Contractors finally working on it. So those projects are real. If some of you had some doubt, They are real and they are working. Thank you. If there's no other information or item to discuss, I move for adjournment. Hearing
Thank
none,
you, everybody.
Motion to
meeting
adjourn.
adjourned.
Thank you.